public forum. We'll open up with the public forum if any of the community members want to make a comment.
Doesn't look like we just got one member of the community just joined. We got two joined. Not showing. Oh. Okay. Tim, it doesn't look like we've got any hands up, so if you wanted to move on.
We'll move forward. We'll close the public forum section and move on to agenda item number 1, approval of the March 9th, 2022 minutes. Everybody have a chance to read those minutes? Okay. Any additions, deletions, subtractions, those minutes?
I can go ahead and so move so we can talk about it.
Okay, I'll second it. All those in favor of approval of the minutes, say aye.
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 All those opposed? The ayes have it and the minutes are approved. Moving on to number 2, the Luxair report. Steve.
Yep, we don't got too much to report. The Quonset hut that's next to the tarmac is in really bad condition. There are pieces falling off of it. And considering it's right next to the tarmac where planes park, I mean, something could get hit. And I just think that building really needs to get addressed. It's not just that it's an eyesore, it's potentially a bigger problem than that. And other than that, we just got the operations and fuel sales. We did get new gravel onto the entrance, which has helped a lot with the potholes. And I believe we're going to be scheduling repairing the broken light within a couple of weeks. And that is all I got.
I have a question if I could.
Sure.
Just for my review, I'm down here in Florida and the sunshine's kind of frying me up a little bit. So back in July, in 2019, the occupancy was around 31 and now it's around 20. Can you just give a quick idea of where the difference is and what needs to happen to get it back up again?
The majority of the loss was from when the runway was closed for a year. We had a lot of tenants leave, at least for that period, and very few came back. And then also we did have some planes that were damaged in the derecho, and a few of those were totaled, and I guess the owners didn't replace them.
Okay. And do you have any thoughts on what might draw people back? What do you see as the main reasons to draw them back?
I am not sure. I mean, obviously making improvements to the airport never hurts. I know one of the most recent tenants that decided not to move in was because we didn't have an approach, but we're already working on that. There have been a couple of people who moved to Cedar Rapids because they really wanted the crosswind runway, and yeah, I think the approach will help with a lot of it.
Thanks.
Steve, getting back to the Quonset hut, with the high winds we've experienced this past week, have you seen further evidence of degradation to that that's causing more concern, that heightens your concern, I guess?
I mean, it's been within the past month or two that there have been pieces that have gotten ripped off. And so I assume it is from those days of higher wind. So, I mean, it's been recently happening. Yeah.
Hey, Steve, this is Ryan Waller with the city.
Hey,
Hi, have you emailed anybody about this hut?
who should I email about it?
Well, I guess for now, it could be me. We're gonna talk about the FBO lease later on, and we were already, I'll update the committee on this, but Mike and I were just talking now that we're just gonna get a quote to get it removed.
Okay.
But, I just, from what I can tell, just in my short time with the city, just making sure that those types of items get communicated to the city on a regular basis and not just here at a committee meeting. So, but I'll talk more about kind of what we're doing to help improve that information flow when we get to the FBO lease update.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anybody have anything else for Steve? Nope. All right, we'll move on. The third item, the chairman's report. I really don't have a whole lot to say right at this time. Hopefully next month I'll have some comments on hopefully some improvements to the airport and warmer weather that would bring out more traffic, and we can talk about it then. But so moving on to items for discussion and or action. Charlie 17, Charlie 35, instrument approach. Motion to receive and file correspondence from Frank Sherman and Hughes Aerospace. Everybody have a chance to read that?
Yes.
Any comments on that, or do we just move to receive it and make it public record?
Yeah, if there's no discussion, I move to make it available for public record.
I'll second it.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries, and those correspondence will now be public record.
Tim,
Item A2, discussion regarding Charlie 17, Charlie 35 instrument approach. I'm assuming Mike would have that piece of this.
well, I'll jump in really quick. We've got some additional questions that have been submitted for Hughes Aerospace as it relates to the instrument approach. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take those questions and get them to Hughes. So what we'd asked the committee to do is to table A2 and A3 to allow us that time to get some questions answered.
Okay,
So I'll make a motion to table A2, A3.
second,
All those in favor say aye.
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 I hear.
All those opposed? The ayes have it, and A2 and A3 are now tabled.
Thank you.
Moving on to section B, Iowa Department of Transportation, Iowa DOT applications. B1, discussion regarding applications of the Iowa DOT Charlie 17 FY 220 or 22 airport state funding application. Everybody have a chance to look through that.
Yes.
It's similar to what we had, what was it, a year ago?
So
the
that
same
is-
items?
So Tim, that is actually the application from last year. That's
Oh,
why.
it is.
22.
You're just passing it forward to this year too? I mean, we're gonna submit the same application?
Well, that's up to the recommendation from this committee to city council. So I provided what we applied for last year. If we want to apply for something different, but those two are the two highest ranked safety items. There are some things that we could do to make ourselves maybe higher on the list, such as changing the percents and make it a higher percentage of city share versus DOT share. So all of that is up for discussion, whether we apply for both, one or the other, and if we change the percents. And we do have Jane with Anderson Bogert here as well that will help with the application. And she had some conversations with the DOT last time when we were not awarded some of that money. And I know some of it was just because of the decrease in flying and the fuel taxes, that there was less money available last year, where they thought that likely one of the two projects would be funded, but likely not both.
So, is Jane available to talk about this in regards to what her recommendation would be? I guess I don't know if, burying the power lines is more important than possibly getting an AWAS system first. I mean, since we're close to getting an approach published, I'd rather see weather on the field. I don't know how anybody else feels about it, but anybody have any comments?
I agree, Tim. I think we need weather on the field. I think that's very important.
Did we have a cost for that one? I can't, we would have to dig that out.
We do have a cost for it. I would have to dig it out. Oh, wait. No, I guess if on the attachment, if you page down, it's under FY 24. And it was about 350,000.
I mean, that would make the approach piece of this a whole lot safer if we had actual weather on the field. And Gene, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but with the equipment that we have, with the lighting and everything, I thought that those boxes were set up so that we could tie right into our existing equipment. Or am I wrong on that?
Tie into the existing equipment for the AWAS.
Yeah, I mean, wasn't that part of having the boxes out there that we could add additional electronics and it would make it easier, or maybe I'm wrong?
Yeah, that doesn't ring a bell to me.
I believe he's referring to the transclosure, has room for expansion in it, basically.
Oh, okay, up by Marion Airport Road.
Yeah. That's what I meant.
Okay, okay. Yeah, I believe that does have room for expansion.
I mean, does burying the power lines right now, does that change the approach plates at all? I mean, as there are right now before they get published? It doesn't, does it?
I wouldn't be able to answer that, but likely even at the rate that we're going, I'm assuming you would have the approach before the power lines would be buried anyways. And I don't think that either the PAPI or the burying of the power lines was 350,000. They were both less than that. So by having a higher dollar amount, you may not get that funded either. So something to take into consideration, is it better to get something small at least paid for versus nothing?
Yeah, I understand that, but from a safety perspective, in my opinion, it's more important to have weather on the field.
Okay, so what ultimately we would need, if that's the recommendation, is to amend B2 or B3 to what you want to apply for, and if you're only applying for one, to not approve the other one.
What does everybody else think?
What is the source of our number for the AWAS? Like, we didn't put out bids or anything, right?
No, it's just Jane's engineering estimate.
It just sounds high, but this will be the first one I've ever bought, so I don't really know.
Did we get a reason when you talked to the DOT that just didn't have enough funds to go around here? Was that, you know?
Yeah, they said it scored pretty high, fairly high before the last two projects last year, but yeah, they said their funding was down because of the less people flying and less revenue.
Do we face any issues because we have a kind of partially implemented ALP with no appropriate zoning and land use policies in place? And do they, I know they had a checkbox for the ALP. There are issues there?
I believe the main thing when we sent in the application was to show that the runway improvements that we have built are protected by zoning currently. So Jane included that. That was the main thing. They don't want to pay for something that isn't protected.
I think I don't know what the dynamics are of the strategy of putting lower cost items on this list first or whatever. I would agree that the AWAS is an important, probably more important than even PAPI, I think. And those were the two things that were on there, was PAPI and then burying those power lines. Was that the alternative we were considering?
And those were the two that were highest on the safety list last year. So I just presented the application from last year and put those same on there as motions. But again, they can be amended to whatever this committee wants to apply for.
So anyway, one of the things about having AWAS on the field that's, I think, is more important to having it right here at Marion is that it'll give you the ceilings. I mean, more accurately. And if you're flying an instrument approach, you want to know what height you're going to break out of the clouds at, far more than you're going to worry about having PAPI lights. I think it's a safety issue. And if I had to pick one thing, I would pick AWAS on the field tenfold over anything else.
Tim, have you looked at that number and you find it reasonable? Or do we even know what the basis of that is?
I have no idea. It says, it seems high. And I know that AWAS systems can be, I mean, you could get a digital AWAS system, which is incrementally more expensive. So I don't know what the ranges are. But I mean, how many airports have you flown into that didn't have weather on the field flying an instrument approach? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree for sure. I'm trying to remember the details of, we looked at one system that was, seems like it operated on CTAF. It was like a by request thing, and it did other things for you. And I was thinking that one of its benefit, that cost was one of the things it had going for it. And I don't remember it being this high, but I don't remember the details. What's the deadline on this application?
It's May 26th, but it needs to go through the city council first to get their stamp of approval.
Well, the one item is the same cost as the other two. If you were going
Close.
to, if you're going to, we might have a better chance of getting one item DOT rather than modify and just go if this was the highest priority. Now, what kind of maintenance, who owns this thing? Does this, I used them, but I don't know how they operate. So is it something that has to be yearly or monthly maintained?
I don't, I don't know, but I see them running unattended at little tiny airports everywhere. Seems like everybody's got one. And it's just like a 1984 IBM PC sitting in the corner, hooked up to an antenna and a box.
Open. Well, if we were going to put that as the number one priority, he would be the suggestion is maybe for that and that only. If, because it's a identical cost.
John, you're cutting in and out, at least for me. I don't know what others are hearing.
Okay, I'll talk slower.
I wonder if we go that direction, I wonder if we've got time to just spend a little bit of time brushing up that number and making sure we've looked at alternatives and not just basing it on somebody else's experience from 10 years ago or whatever.
I'm sure Jane would have a little time to look into it if that's the direction that the committee wants to go for the application. But again, we would need amended motion to move that forward.
Well, I guess I'm in favor of going that direction. And if it's appropriate, I'd make a motion that we put the AWAS on this plan in place of the other two items, and ask Jane to make sure that our cost estimates are up to date and accurate.
I'd second that motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I hear.
All those opposed? The ayes have it, and the motion is amended.
Can we have that motion reread? Can we just read the motion so we know exactly what the content is?
So I didn't write it down. But I think what it would be a motion to replace B2 and B3 on our agenda with an application for an AWAS system at the airport. And also ask Jane to refresh the costs and make sure that we've got good numbers.
Okay, and as it stands now, do we need any other motion to move this forward to council, or that motion was to change the application? Do we need another motion to send it forward to council in this as amended?
Yes.
Was that a yes there?
That's correct. So the first one amended the motion. Now you need to vote on the amended motion.
Okay, I make a motion to approve the amended motion and move it forward to the city council.
I'll
Okay.
second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 I hear.
Opposed? The ayes have it and the motion is moved forward. Let's move on to the update on fixed base operation lease. I'm sure the city is gonna take that one.
Yes, thank you. So this is Ryan. The amended and restated lease was approved at the council meeting with Luxair. There's a couple things that this document does that helps us get on a make some progress with the airport. One of the first things that is required is within 90 days that we establish more clarity on safety protocols and inspections and assigning responsibilities. So we're having an initial meeting with Luxair. I don't know the specific date yet, or if we finalized one yet, but that's going to be a process that we'll carry out to make sure that we're doing everything by the book and that we're able to address the various things that come up that are important and make sure that we've got a clear line of responsibility. And that would include kind of that earlier conversation about the HUD and just how do we report things, how do we have that communication flow and not have that done at a committee meeting. There's some things that, actually the committee would be responsible for reviewing things like you just did with the application. And if there's issues, you can't wait to have a committee meeting to address it. So that's one thing. The other thing that it does that is important is that the termination clause for the original agreement was 30 days, meaning that if Luxair decided to get out of the business, all they would have to do is provide 30 days notice. That's not, that doesn't allow for much time to react, especially with all the legal requirements that we as a municipal government have to go through. So as part of our discussions with Luxair, as we worked on this lease, that's the out clause, initial out clause is 365 days. That's important because what that allows the city to do, and we talked about this at our last meeting, is go through and review and analyze and have conversations and understand kind of what is the long-term future of the airport. Right now, the way it's configured, it's kind of a hybrid that's not really seamless. And somebody new to the area and to this operation, it's not allowing for ease of responding to things and doing things that need to be done to make sure that it's fully functional. So we're going to begin that process probably sometime after we establish the safety protocols. So stay tuned. But that's going to be, and we alluded to this last meeting, that we would go through those conversations. And then once that's done, then really kind of take a look at updating that ALP and making sure that what's in there, what are the action steps that need to be taken, what action steps are outdated, what action steps weren't contemplated, and make sure that the ALP is reflective of what the community is looking for, in that we can proceed moving forward. So still a lot of work that lies ahead to get this to a point where our airport's operating as best as it can, and that we're addressing all the things that we need to address. So, but the main thing we wanted to report on is this first step with the safety protocol. So happy to answer any questions.
Anybody have any questions for Ryan?
I think that's a great idea, and to keep things moving forward, and we're showing progress. So, kudos.
Anybody else?
I have one thing before we adjourn, not on this topic. I just, for Alicia's benefit or whoever writes up the minutes, I don't think that the C-35 designation for the approach to runway 35, that's not a thing, right? I mean, it's runway 17/35 approaches or something like that, but C-17 is the airport.
Designation.
C-35 is, yeah, C-35 is something else.
And this is just for clarity, as somebody who's new to this group, when you're saying that, you're referring to what? The agenda, or some other document?
I'm referring to, I'm assuming something is going to be written into the minutes. And it was confusing to me when people started talking about the Charlie 35 instrument approach. If that's actually the name of the approach for runway 35, then it's fine, but I don't think it is.
I believe that's what Hughes had it labeled as, so.
All right, that's not a big deal. More important is that we allocate some money to the city folks so they could get some light bulbs to better light their facilities there. It is dark.
What's that? Are you talking about this room, or are you talking about over at the airport? Because we just approved the contract for maintenance over there.
I believe he's making a joke about
Okay.
you guys look like shadows.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's just, we've got to get the wider view, we've got the laptop set up over across the room, so we'll try to do this better next time.
Yeah, you guys could be cardboard cutouts and we wouldn't know any difference.
I just move my arms every now and then.
Yeah, I saw Ryan in person at the council meeting and I wouldn't have recognized him except for the publicity photos at the website. Mike can stay in the shadows, that's fine. I know what you look like. And if it helps anybody, I tell people on Facebook, put a smiley face after everything I say and you will not go wrong. So treat everything I say as a joke and you will never misinterpret me.
Well, thank you all for your time today.
Yep. All right, with that, let's adjourn. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Thank you. Have a good one.
See ya.